like sparring
Yeah.
when I watched it, which,
Nobody expected this conversation to explode the way it did. What started as casual commentary suddenly turned into one of the most uncomfortable truths. Boxing fans have been dancing around for years. When Anthony Joshua finally addressed the Jake Paul situation, even Joe Rogan looked genuinely stunned, because what was hinted at quietly before was now being said out loud. According to Joshua, there was pressure behind the scenes to make the fight something safer, something controlled, something that didn't involve real danger. And Joshua made one thing clear right away. He wasn't interested in anything scripted, coordinated, or protected. If it was happening, it had to be real, with real consequences. That's where the conversation took a sharp turn, because once that door opened, everything about Jake Paul's rise in boxing came back under the microscope. Rogan didn't accuse anyone outright, but he did point out something fans have been arguing about online for years. Many of Paul's wins have faced accusations of being too clean, too convenient, too perfectly paced. Critics have long claimed that some opponents looked more compliant than competitive, helping build a record that looks impressive on paper but raises questions when you dig deeper. And while nothing has been proven, the whispers refuse to go away. What made this moment hit harder was the contrast. On one side, you have Anthony Joshua, a former Olympic gold medalist, a multiple-time heavyweight champion, someone who has lived inside real danger for most of his career. On the other, Jake Paul, a global star who entered boxing through fame rather than tradition. When Rogan broke it down, he described the fight not as a war, but as something closer to a controlled sparring session. There were tense moments, sure enough to keep people watching, but it never crossed into that terrifying territory where careers or lives hang in the balance. And that, according to Rogan, might actually be the most important part of the story. Boxing can turn ugly in seconds. One clean shot, one bad fall, and everything changes. Rogan emphasized that fans often forget this when hype takes over. Seeing both fighters walk away without serious damage was a good outcome, regardless of opinions. Safety, he argued, matters more than spectacle, even if that's not what sells pay-per-views. But not everyone was willing to let the bigger questions slide. Chael Sonnen stepped in with a blunt assessment that cut through the noise. From his perspective, the matchup never made sense to begin with. A fighter with just over 10 professional bouts, standing across from an Olympic medalist with years of elite experience, goes against the basic logic boxing has relied on for generations. Add the natural weight difference, and the gap becomes even harder to ignore. Sonnen wasn't emotional about it. He was analytical. In real competitive boxing, with proper oversight, commissions and trainers would almost never approve a pairing like that. When logic disappears, doubt fills the space, and that doubt is exactly what fans are struggling with. If boxing is truly the sweet science, if it's meant to reward experience, discipline, and craft, then a fighter that new simply shouldn't be competitive at that level. That's not disrespect. That's reality. Some fans who actually support Jake Paul still admit this, not as an insult to him, but as a compliment to boxing itself. The sport is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to take years. There was also frustration, especially from the MMA side, about how the fight played out tactically. Watching Joshua struggle to cut off the ring felt strange to fighters used to smaller spaces and constant pressure. In another combat sport, running endlessly wouldn't be an option, but boxing allows it, and Joshua chose patience over chaos. He read the movement, felt the timing, and waited. That mindset alone tells you everything about the difference in experience. Rogan acknowledged something important here. Jake Paul has always wanted to be taken seriously as a real fighter. He keeps stepping into the ring, keeps testing himself, and he doesn't shy away from the spotlight. But this time was different. Facing someone like Joshua isn't just another step up, it's a different universe. No one really knows how Jake's stamina would hold up in a full, intense heavyweight battle because he's never been there before. Speed and skill can only take you so far when power and experience start stacking up. That uncertainty is what fuels the debate. Jake talks big, markets himself aggressively, and that's part of why people pay attention. But expectations rise with the talk. You can't claim legitimacy and then be shocked when people judge you by legitimate standards. Even so, some voices urge balance. Young fighters rarely face elite competition early on. Most build slowly. In that sense, Jake isn't doing anything unheard of. The difference is the spotlight. Then came the harshest criticism. Tim Bradley didn't mince words. From his point of view, Jake Paul's fights look orchestrated, designed for entertainment rather than true competition. He warned fans not to confuse spectacle with skill, reminding everyone that massive viewership doesn't equal legitimacy. Bradley's concern wasn't personal. It was about the long-term credibility of the sport. When the lines blur too much, boxing pays the price. Still, even Bradley admitted something that complicates the narrative. Jake Paul's hustle is undeniable. He built an audience outside boxing, and brought it with him. He chooses his opponents, promotes aggressively, and people follow. Whether purists like it or not, when Jake fights, attention follows. The debates, the arguments, the outrage, all of it keeps boxing in the conversation. From that angle, it's hard to deny his impact. Daniel Cormier added another layer by acknowledging the sheer boldness involved. Joking aside about money, he recognized that stepping in with someone like Joshua takes real nerve. Cormier pointed out Jake's movement, his ability to avoid catastrophic damage, and the energy it takes to constantly stay mobile against a massive puncher. That kind of movement drains you fast. The fact that Jake stayed upright for as long as he did earned a measure of respect, even from skeptics. But even that praise came with limits. Experience always shows. Eddie Hearn later confirmed that Joshua's strategy was never about rushing. It was about control. Break him down, wear him out, finish when the moment is right. According to Hearn, everything unfolded exactly as planned. No unnecessary risks, no chaos, just discipline. As the dust settled, more analysts chimed in, some with sharp metaphors that stuck. One compared it to trying to swat a fly on a windshield. Annoying at first, hard to pin down, but eventually inevitable. The suggestion wasn't that Jake went in to win, it was that he went in to survive. And from a business standpoint, he succeeded. He sold the fight, he sold the dream. But inside the ring, reality eventually catches up. Others reminded fans of the brutal truth about heavyweight boxing: even punches that don't land clean do damage. The pressure alone wears you down. One mistake, one lapse, and it's over. Joshua never looked threatened. When the fight ended, he looked like he could go for a jog. That tells its own story. Still, credit was given where it was due. Jake got dropped and kept getting back up. That takes heart. Fear can make you survive longer than expected, but it also burns your fuel fast. Eventually, the tank empties. Some called the entire event a win-win. Joshua gets paid, restores confidence, and walks away healthy. Jake gets attention, money, and another chapter in his ongoing experiment inside boxing. Others questioned whether risking that much was brave or reckless. Opinions remain split. Luke Thomas later pushed back on what he saw as overprayed. In his view, Joshua wasn't carrying anyone, but he also wasn't flooring it. There were moments where punches were pulled, not out of coordination, but caution. Jake's awkward footwork, constant rotation, and unpredictability made things messy, not dangerous. That distinction matters, and that's where the conversation ultimately lands. This wasn't the biggest scandal in boxing history. It wasn't a total farce either. It was something in between. A collision of entertainment, ambition, business, and a sport that still demands respect. Jake Paul survived. Anthony Joshua dominated, fans argued, and boxing, once again, found itself at the center of a conversation that refuses to die. Because the real question isn't whether Jake belongs in the ring, it's how far spectacle can stretch before reality snaps it back into place.